A restaurant manager kicked out a woman because she looked too poor to dine there. What he didn't know, she was the wife of the billionaire who owns the entire restaurant. 1 hour later, that same manager was jobless and humiliated in front of the entire staff. It was a bright Wednesday afternoon, and the bustle of downtown New York was in full swing. At the heart of the chaos stood Bellissimo, an upscale Italian restaurant known for its sleek decor, elite clientele, and culinary excellence. It was a place where appearances mattered, where luxury whispered from every corner. Richard Carlton, the restaurant's general manager, was a man of particular tastes. Tall, sharply dressed, and armed with an air of superiority, he prided himself on maintaining an aura of exclusivity. He often told his staff, "We cater to the right kind of people. That's what keeps our standards high." But Richard's understanding of who the right people were was rooted deeply in prejudice and appearance. He judged guests before they even opened their mouths, by the way they dressed, walked, or even the condition of their handbags. To him, a scuffed shoe or an outdated phone case spoke volumes. That day, just past noon, a woman walked into Bellissimo wearing a simple beige cardigan, slightly faded jeans, and a pair of flat shoes that had seen better days. Her hair was loosely tied back, and a canvas tote bag hung from her shoulder. To Richard, she screamed, "Out of place!" He approached her with the same disdain he reserved for people he thought didn't belong. "Can I help you?" he asked, his eyes scanning her from head to toe. "Yes," the woman smiled politely. "Table for one, please." Richard frowned. "I'm sorry, but we're fully booked for the afternoon." The restaurant, half empty at best, echoed softly with clinking cutlery and hushed conversations. The woman glanced around. "I can see several open tables." "Those are reserved," Richard said flatly, stepping slightly in front of her as if to block her view. "I see. Do you have anything by the window?" she asked, still calm. He gave a tight-lipped smile, hiding his growing irritation. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. We reserve our tables for customers who meet certain expectations." She blinked, taken aback. "What expectations are those?" Richard's mask dropped slightly. "Let's just say this isn't the type of establishment for casual diners. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable somewhere else." There was a long pause as the woman looked at him carefully. Then she nodded, not saying a word. She turned and left quietly, walking out of the ornate doors without protest. Richard watched her go, smug satisfaction settling into his expression. He turned and walked toward the kitchen, already forgetting her face. What he didn't know, what he could not have imagined, was that the woman he had just insulted was Amara Lennox, the wife of billionaire entrepreneur Dominic Lennox, the man who had quietly purchased Bellissimo 6 months ago under his corporate holdings. Dominic loved anonymity. He rarely involved himself in the day-to-day operations of his investments, preferring to keep a low profile. But Amara, she had a penchant for surprises. Back in their penthouse apartment that overlooked Central Park, Amara walked through the door to find Dominic finishing a conference call. He looked up and smiled. "How was lunch?" Amara dropped her bag by the door and gave him a look that was somewhere between amused and frustrated. "Apparently, I wasn't dressed expensively enough to eat at Bellissimo." Dominic raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She recounted the story, every detail, including the manager's words, the condescension, the outright dismissal. Dominic listened quietly, his expression growing colder by the second. "He said I didn't meet expectations. Can you believe that?" Amara finished, sipping a glass of water. Dominic stood up, phone in hand. "Do you remember his name?" "Richard Carlton." Dominic didn't say another word. He placed a call. The next morning, Richard arrived at Bellissimo in high spirits. The night had gone well. A famous actress had dined there and complimented the risotto. His staff was running smoothly. Life was good. That all changed at 10:15 a.m. A sleek black car pulled up outside the restaurant. Two men in tailored suits stepped out, followed by a tall man in a gray coat. His presence commanded attention. Dominic Lennox in the flesh. Richard didn't recognize him immediately, but the staff did. The chef dropped a spoon. The hostess froze. Dominic entered the restaurant like a storm cloaked in calm. His eyes locked onto Richard. "You must be Richard Carlton," he said. Richard nodded, confused. "Yes, can I help you?" "I'm Dominic Lennox. I own this restaurant." The color drained from Richard's face. "I'd like to speak with you, in private." They stepped into the manager's office. The door closed softly behind them. "I understand you turned away a customer yesterday," Dominic began, his voice cold and controlled. Richard nodded. "Yes, she didn't quite fit the atmosphere of the place. I was protecting our brand." "Let me be very clear," Dominic said, his tone hardening. "You turned away my wife." Richard's mouth opened and closed, panic rising in his chest. "I bought this restaurant because Amara loves it. She's the reason it still exists. She helped redesign the menu. She even helped decorate the lounge area. And you had the audacity to judge her based on what? A sweater?" I, I didn't know," Richard stammered. "That's the problem," Dominic interrupted. "You didn't care to know. You judged her by appearances. That kind of behavior doesn't belong in any establishment I own." Richard started to protest, but Dominic held up a hand. "You're fired, effective immediately. Your severance will reflect your poor conduct." Before Richard could say anything more, Dominic opened the door. "Security will escort you out. Don't make a scene." Stunned silence fell across the staff as Richard was let out. No one said a word. No one protested. Dominic turned to the remaining employees. "Let this be a reminder," he said. "We serve people here, all people. Not handbags, not brands, not Rolex watches. If someone walks through that door, they deserve respect, regardless of what they're wearing." That afternoon, Amara returned to Bellissimo, this time in the same clothes. The staff, now briefed on who she really was, scrambled to serve her with the utmost care. But Amara was gracious, smiling at everyone, not holding a grudge. As she sipped her espresso by the window, a young server approached. "Mrs. Lennox, I just wanted to say I'm really sorry about what happened yesterday." Amara nodded gently. "Thank you, but it's okay. Sometimes people need to be reminded that kindness costs nothing." The news spread like wildfire. Blogs picked up the story. "Restaurant manager fired for judging billionaire's wife" trended across social media. Some criticized Amara for testing the staff. Others praised her for revealing the truth behind snobbery in high-end service industries. Dominic and Amara didn't comment publicly. They didn't need to. The story spoke for itself. But behind closed doors, Dominic smiled at his wife. "You planned that, didn't you?" Amara laughed. "Let's just say I was curious, and now I know who's worth keeping around." From that day on, Bellissimo saw a subtle but powerful shift. The uniform stayed sharp, the cuisine still elite, but the attitude changed. There was warmth, there was dignity, there was respect. Because once a woman in a cardigan reminded a room full of people what class really looks like.